Good morning, everybody. I am here to talk to you about arcane archers. Now, for those of you who have been watching my live stream, you'd know that I'm checking out the Strimtom's acid arrow. If you've seen the last video that I put out, you might have noticed that the update came through and it improved archers. So exactly how does it feel? And most importantly, Strimtom's acid arrow build, my claim to fame, how is that going to change? Now, the answer may in fact surprise you. I decided to do this on hardcore because it gives a good opportunity for me to test out the character build and really stress test it, because if it works on hardcore, it's going to work on the regular servers. Especially since I'm trying not to give anything crazy to this character, no special items, nothing like that, just kind of run it as it is and use what I can find for the most part. So let's start out right out of the gate. I'm playing as an Elven Arcane Archer because I told Twitch chat that they should vote for what type of race I should play out of the free-to-play races, and they voted for Elf because they're very original. If you'd like to become an original member of my Twitch channel chat, please go to twitch.tv/Strimtom so you can provide all of the best pipe-based memes. Elf is a pretty standard choice for an Arcane Archer, or really any type of archer in general. I find that the Elf is really strong since it gives you access to the Dragon Mark, letting you take displacement, which is super useful in a ranger type character who doesn't get other types of defenses quite so easily. However, this character has pretty much no use for displacement given the fact that you have to spend all of your points in your offensive trees. You see, the main thing about Arcane Archers is that you're not really an Arcane Archer. The tier 5 of the Arcane Archer tree underperforms the tier 5 of the Deepwood Stalker by a pretty large margin. Sure, you get Arrow of Slaying, which does a bunch of extra damage, which is kind of cool, but Deepwood Stalker gives you Headshot, which automatically crits, which is even cooler. Yeah, Deepwood Stalker doesn't have Final Strike, which is this cool AoE bow attack, but you know what it does have? 60 more ranged power, and that's a lot of ranged power and a huge improvement over the amount of damage you could possibly be doing before. So the long and short of it is that if you're deciding to play any type of Arcane Archer, it's really just you're playing as an Arcane Archer at the start, but the most of your points end up going into Deepwood Stalker. You basically start out picking up all the Acid Arrow stuff and then moving into the Deepwood Stalker tree later, since the Acid Arrow scales better in the early game, but the flat ranged power will scale better in the late game. Now, this might sound a little bit confusing, especially since the idea of imbuing your bow with acid arrows sounds really cool, and it's one of the main focuses of the build. However, there are a few reasons as to why this falls off. Reason number one is that this damage unfortunately can't scale with critical strikes, and endgame DPS and DDO does not scale linearly, but exponentially. That's why you'll see people getting crazy numbers like hitting for hundreds of thousands of damage. The reason is they're scaling everything through critical multipliers. 2 times 4 times 5 times 6 is way bigger than 2 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. And so while the base damage of your elemental hits is just the damage you deal times your spell power, the base damage of your bow hits is the damage you deal times your ranged power, times your critical multiplier, and that's a huge deal. That extra multiplication step basically means that if you want to do any type of added on-hit damage, it needs to be so high as a baseline that it can compete with crit damage while being non-crit, as unfortunately the acid damage can't crit. If there was a way for it to crit with some type of spell crit component, that would be interesting. However, I don't think that either Standing Stone Games has the capacity or the desire to do that at this moment, so I don't expect to see that changing anytime soon. The other major issue is that while your main damage from your bow, the piercing damage, can be changed to different damage types like good or cold iron or adamantine based on the type of monster you're fighting to overcome damage reduction, if you're an acid arrow and you just decide to shoot at a monster like an arcane ooze, the acid turns to 0 damage. Or if you happen to shoot at a monster like a slad, again, the damage turns to 0. And dealing 0 damage is a major problem, whereas your regular damage can bypass all of that. As a result, you don't really want to focus on the on-hit damage for any monsters with resistances will cause you major trouble. However, you don't have to worry about it if you focus on the main damage, which is one of the reasons why for the early game where most monsters don't really have any resistances to any of the major elements, specifically acid, this character can instead just use the early acid damage as this awesome gateway into the later game where then you can start tearing it apart. Now, the major changes outside of just some of those simple explanations was that bows now shoot different and also shoot faster. Now, the attack speed is actually the same as you level, so it should feel pretty much the same during the leveling process. But the reason why I say it shoots faster is because you can now actually increase the speed with action boosts. That's right, action boost haste will now affect your bow shooting speed, and it's pretty good. Now, one of the main issues is that Arcane Archers don't get access to action boost haste because Rangers don't have that unless you go into the Tempest tree, and spending points in the Tempest tree is not something you want to do on a character like this, meaning that action boost haste is going to be something that's going to going to be better served as multi-classing, or if you happen to be playing as a fighter who gets crazy high attack speed with this type of bow build. On top of that, now bows are getting an extra +1 critical threat range from point blank shot, increased range power from rapid shot at 1.5 times your base attack bonus, or like 1.5 times your level basically. So if you're level 10, you're going to get 15 extra range power, which is pretty sweet. And many shot now being an attack that fires 3 times and also adds double shot at the same rate as you got the range power before, 1.5 times your base attack bonus. Now I wanted to play around with the actual mini shot before I kind of came to a conclusion, but the big thing that I found is that oftentimes I'm just spamming it. I just use mini shot all the time. Whereas before, I would sometimes save mini shot for the entire quest and only use it on the final boss. Now I'm using mini shot in every tomb, sometimes more than one time a room, just shooting every single thing I can as many times as I can because mini shot feels fantastic. It's so much more versatile and it just feels way better to actually use your skills instead of sitting on them all the time. So I'm a huge fan of this change. Now, I can't really comment as to how this feels at the end game, whether this makes the playstyle better or worse, but during the early leveling, for somebody like me who always wants to be finding ways to engage with the monster, being able to see a Reaper spawn and just press a single button and it gets deleted while still having 2 extra shots in the chamber to say, okay, well now I have 3 different many shots I can use and I can just shoot them out whenever I need to. It always felt like it was up whenever I needed it, and I really enjoyed having the option to just instantly kill stuff with many shot. So far, it's spelled smooth, fast, and really fun to play, just like Dominion. Now, before I move on to exactly how to build this character, I got 2 things I want to say. First, I'm following the Strimtom's Acid Arrow guide you can find in the description of this video. I am updating it as I go, but for the most part, I haven't really made any changes, so I think you'll have a good time following it along. And second, I just want to give a quick shout out and dedicate this video to Jason, Michael, and Elizabeth. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying this video, and check out some cool bow action coming up from me. Now here it is, Strimtom's Acid Arrow in 2021. How does it feel? Well, feels pretty damn good. I gotta say, I really like the animations a lot. They started to grow on me. At first, I was like unsure how exactly I felt about it, but again, seeing how the character kind of carries himself, some of the actual bow firing animations, it looks pretty good. And again, standing still, the animation looks fantastic. When you're moving around a little bit, the animation looks like kind of weird, especially when you're running forward with the bow. It feels like it's out of place. But the second you start strafing and actually moving around in combat, now I'm strafing to the side. Like, strafing to the side doesn't feel too bad. When you're actually shooting your bow, it feels good. I like the way the character holds themselves, especially when they're standing still. It's only this front walking animation that's a little awkward. So overall, I really like the way the animations look now, and I think you will too, and especially some of the new firing stuff. Like the fact that, like, when I fire an arrow, you know, it's an arrow. But if I actually use the mini shot, you can see this, like, there's like a kind of a visual stream of arrows that are coming out. It's very neat. So, how do you build this character? Well, I don't need to go into too much detail because I already have Strimtom's Acid Arrow build guide, which I've been following to the T and updating any bits and pieces as I go along. But basically, max out your dex, get a little bit of Constitution, and call it a day. As we move on, all your stats are going to be kind of funneled into Reflex and Fortitude. Your will saves are going to lack a little bit. I have some Wisdom, but you know, just from some items. But yeah, not a lot of good defensive stats, but that's okay. You don't need it. Your character gets a lot of free positive spell power, so even though I'm only casting Cure Light Wounds, my character is, hitting the wrong button, is still able to heal myself for a good amount, although I didn't realize it doesn't come out without the UI, so it's healing for like 26 right now on a Cure Light, which is not too bad given that I don't have any healing amplification items. As far as skills go, heal, spot, these things are going to be your main class skills, and then your cross-class, spellcraft for damage, balance for balance, and UMD just so that when you need shield wands. This is useful on Hardcore League because I'm playing that here for shield wands. It's useful on the regular game for resurrection items. Being able to cast Raise Dead in raids or at endgame is just kind of useful. And any character, even with low charisma, is going to be able to achieve this feat. Speaking of, the feats that I took on this character are pretty straightforward. The only ranged feats that you don't get, as in Arcane Archer or Ranger, is point blank shot. So you just take point blank shot at level 1, and now that it gives +1 critical threat range with crossbows, not crossbows, with long and short bows, getting that 10% extra hit with bows is so strong, and being able to just critically strike all the time, it feels a lot more consistent, and it even feels better, or at least it will feel better when I get improved critical in the future. Now, that being said, Precise Shot, again, you get this for free at level 4. Rapid Shot, you get this for free at level 2. Many Shot, you get this for free at level 6. So what other feats do you take? For me, at level 3, I took Precision, because Precision adds a ton of extra damage. And then at level 6, I took Dodge, taking Improved Critical at 9, Mobility at 12, and Shot on the Run at 15. As far as feats beyond that, I'm not 100% certain. I'm going to figure that out as we go along, but you can just check out the build guide for details. For your spells, generally, the first spell that I took was Ram's Might, although you may consider actually taking Resist Energy if you think that might be better for you at level 1. But I found Ram's Might was fine because I use Resist Energy potions for the most part. And then once you're level 6, you can take Ram's Might and Resist Energy. I was doing some Kenneth challenges, so I needed Long Strider, but again, I would recommend Ram's Might for the most part. Then, once you get to higher levels, I'm taking Cure here. A spell you could actually take would be Barkskin, which gives you a good amount of defense, especially as a ranger caster. However, I can't use this right now because of my itemization. I actually get natural armor, so I don't need it. Plus, I don't love the visuals of Barkskin, so definitely not a bad idea to go with something like Cure in the meantime, especially if you can, since natural armor is pretty easy to get on items like cloaks and boots. Both have natural armor that can be as a stat on them. As far as my enhancement tree goes, the trick to playing Arcane Archer is putting all your points into the Arcane Archer tree. Now, in my build guide I originally wrote, I would recommend that you go for Improved Weapon Finesse first for getting Dexterity to damage, and then go for your Arcane Archer stuff later. However, you already get to use Dexterity to hit and damage with longbows and shortbows, so you don't actually need to take this enhancement anymore. So instead, you can just go into the Arcane Archer tree and take Corrosive Arrows right away. This means at level 1, your damage is a little shaky. At level 2, your damage starts to get really good, and at level 3, you're one-shotting every single monster because you're adding 5d8s of acid damage, and if you have any items of acid spell power, like a ring or something you get on the auction house, something really cheap, your character is going to be super strong for pretty much the entire early leveling process, which is what I'm experiencing. So once I had my 22 points in here, that's when I started spending points in the Deepwood Stalker tree, picking up just, the extra health, some of this action boost stuff here, just a little bit of extra bonus damage. I'm going to be spending the rest of my points in this tree. If you do want to follow along in what I'm actually doing, the plan for this is to go with 39 points in Deepwood Stalker, getting Mark of the Hunter and also these 4 abilities up here, and then taking the Capstone of Mystical Archer. However, I'm still going to be testing out some other stuff. I don't really plan on testing the top tier of Arcane Archer for the most part, as I know it's not as good as Deepwood Stalker, but I am curious as to how the new Final Strike feels, so I will be testing that out since you get range power in Heroics now, thanks to the improved Rapid Shot and the improved Many Shot. As far as my itemization is actually concerned, I'm kind of just throwing on whatever. I got a +2 Holy Longbow of Critical Piercing that I pulled off the auction house. I managed to pull these Thorn Boots out of Feywild with Wisdom and Natural Armor bonuses on them. Still using this Korthos Spearbane as well as this Power of Evidence trinket. I just got the Explorer's Hat. This is not a very good item for this character because I don't really need the search and my spot's pretty high. But hey, why not get a little bit of extra search and spot and some dodge? It's not too bad. I got this from the Promise of Flame, a free-to-play quest. Healthy Chain Shirt. You gotta have Vitality, you gotta have Constitution. It's a pretty good prefix. If you can search up Healthy, you can find a lot of good items out there on the auction house. These gloves gives +3 to all saves, which is nice. I got this Corrosion Ring. I found it out of a quest, so it gives me some acid spell power. I bought this 69 Devotion Ring on the auction house, which is pretty sweet. I found this Belt of Constitution and False Life. That's nice. And then this is a Feather Falling item. So, again, Feather Falling is pretty good. So, that being said, all this stuff together, my character seems pretty strong. I've been doing a little bit of Reaper mode, actually, when I see a group that's up for it. Not a lot, but a little bit. And honestly, it's been a pretty good time. This character is very strong, a very high amount of damage, and Many Shot is just crazy. Anytime you see a monster that's even mildly scary, you just look at it and go, oh, I'm so sorry, you don't exist anymore, and it just dies. Look at this trail. I didn't even see how long this was, but look at this. It's just like this shockwave effect. It's great. A couple important notes about Many Shot and the Ranger in general. There's a wording here. So Many Shot, you can use it 3 times now, and it has 3 charges. So the idea is instead of it being a buff that you get all the time, now you can have these short bursts where you go boom, 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 and you pretty much kill somebody right away, because each arrow, it shoots 3 arrows, and each arrow is +1 critical threat range and multiplier during the duration, which is pretty cool. So you just like boom, 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 you hit all 3. However, you got 3 charges of it with a 2-second cooldown for each charge. So you can go like fire at 1 and then 2 and then 3, and you can burst really quickly to kill a boss, or you can kind of spread it out a little bit. However, it says that you regain 1 charge every 12 seconds that you don't use Many Shot, which means if you want to get your charges back, you have to not use Many Shot. However, that is not the case. It actually is just a 12-second cooldown to get a charge back, which is a way better system. I don't know why it would be if you don't use Many Shot. So basically, if you use all 3 charges, it takes you 36 seconds to get back. But as long as you're spacing out your charges a little bit, you'll usually always have one, since it's going to be coming back while it's like the 2 seconds that it's on cooldown, you can use it again. That is 2 seconds out of the 10 that you need to wait for the new Many Shot. I can even prove it here. So I'll put this up here. So Many Shot, and then 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 using mini shot, 8, 9, 10, 11, and there it is, it's back. So it's like, it was 12 seconds since the first shot, not 12 seconds since the second shot, which is what it says it should do. So it just gives it to you back. It's actually better than it says it is, and it's a very, very useful ability. So I think you're going to like new mini shot a lot. This character, because of the change in stats, is currently rocking 12 range power and 14% double shot, thanks to the ship buffs, and that's only going to get better. And 14% double shot is a lot at this level, especially with no items or any other abilities. You can definitely tell because double strike is so good when you play as a Vistanian knife fighter, getting the extra 20% double shot with the stabbing attack, the what is this, rapid slash? So imagine having that on your bow, but all the time. I'm at 14% right now. When I get to level 10, that's 15%. It's just going to be really, really strong. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for checking it out. I hope you're looking forward to playing some Archer like I am. Honestly, this character is performing better than I was originally expecting, mostly because I just don't really like range that much, but the changes to many shot and making it a much more active skill where I always just want to be out there shooting monsters and trying to do everything I can, it's made it a lot more fun. So check out many shot, check out the new changes, and I'll be giving you a more full update in the future and when I figure out exactly how I want to build and adjust this character from where I was, although I don't see myself making too many changes from the original build guide since everything seems to pretty much fall into place. That's all I have. If you want to see more, make sure you check out the Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Strimtom. And I'm going to disappear right now because I don't know how to end videos still after many, many, many months of making videos. I'm going to go.